Welcome back to Cade Sport, the platform that invites you to stop pedaling and start cycling. So today on this virtual cycling platform, we are going to be looking at 4 races live. So we are giving you a bumper crop of very exciting edge of your seat action, beginning with a hilly map called Summit Islands, which was designed by Cade Sport's very own Ben Chillian, one of the riders and racers here, and it's a fantastic map. It incorporates everything that a road cyclist would be looking for in a race, a really good race with climbs, lots of very fast descents and lots of tight corners, everything you would want from a Grand Fondo, for example. And then we're going on to Country Rally, which is the mountain bike course. So this is going to be interesting. Having ridden this myself, you get a lot of very, very high chain tension, a lot of high resistance on those off-road sections, especially if you are on a direct drive smart trainer. And then we're going to go on to Echelon, which is one of the sci-fi maps here on Cade Sport. Absolutely fantastic map. Imagine like a flat velodrome. So instead of being able to take that corner nice and smooth like on a velodrome, instead you're going to get that very tight corner that you have to negotiate with actual steering. But it presents also those straights where a lot of power can be put down. So that's going to be a very interesting race for sure. And race 4, well, we're going to be looking at one of our very fast, very powerful all-road race where the riders are looking at power rather than skill and negotiation on corners. And that is with Apex Mountains, which is, again, very enjoyable course if you do try out Cade Sport. So let's take a look at our power-ups. So in race 1, they have one only of each wind at your back, which gives you the effect of having a tailwind propelling you along, giving you that extra speed. That lasts for 20 seconds with a 20-second recharge. Then we have weight lifted. Again, it lifts the weight so that any amount of pedaling is going to give you a good amount of speed and power with, once again, 20-second usage time, 20-second recharge. Race 2, we're going to be looking at 2 each of just wind at your back. Sorry, not 2 each, just 2 of wind at your back, which we covered before, like having a really strong tailwind pushing you along. Quantum shift is going to be active on race 3, meaning that riders can pass through one another without being caught behind one another. Then we have corner caper, which only lasts for 10 seconds, but the benefit is it has a 10-second recharge time, again giving you that benefit of staying nice and tight through those corners without having to focus too much on your steering. So here we are on the start line, ready to go. We've got a lot of familiar names here today, a couple of new names it looks like as well, so we'll get into those as we get going. But look at this, we've got Pedro right in the front there, we've got Jennifer on the front, and we've got Frank as well. Frank has, of course, abandoned me for the course. I guess it's Frank's turn now. So here we go. Frank's taking the charge on the tri-bike, so he's getting that much greater aero benefit. And he's taking a leaf out of my book from what I was talking about on commentary the other weekend there, where he's freewheeling the corners to not have to rely so hard on the brakes. Oh, Pedro, just wiping out there as he was given a very powerful attack to chase Frank. Now, Carl, one of our big power riders, he's going to be very powerful on the climbs here because that is a benefit of being a powerful rider. Vibika is too. I believe Vibika in the outside world, in the real world, is a mountain biker, so a lot of power on those climbs. And we saw a lot of power on a sprint with Vibika the other day here. That was a fantastic win on Apex Mountains. Timed that sprint perfectly, used the draft benefit perfectly too. It was a textbook win. So here we go. Can she give a good chase to Frank? Frank is just kind of stealing a lead here, and he is just comfortably freewheeling all of these corners, showing us how it's done. There we go. Just freewheeling, as you can see, is Watts to zero. So are Vibika's. So that is what Vibika is trying out as well. And that has allowed her to catch up, as well as Carl here. Look at that. And so this is a great time to mention that teams can set up in Cade Sport. They can also customize their own jerseys and kits. As you can see here, so we've got Homer in the CCC, Cool, Calm and Collected one. We saw Vibika in the Hive one. And we saw Carl in, I don't know if this is meant to be pronounced Velocity, or because it's Velo, like bicycles, Velo City, but it's that's the team he's representing, with that awesome fox made from the parts of a chain link, parts of a chain. So Vibika and Frank neck and neck going up this climb, and great course here that designed by Ben Chillian, because lots of very aggressive climbing, but climbing that is over a good distance and graduated. And there we see Ben himself. And my apologies for mispronouncing your name in the past. I honestly thought that was Chillian, but it's Chillian, apparently. So here we go, another member of Team Hive. He's beginning to put in a bit of a powerful chase to catch up to those lead-free riders. Part of that great climbing that Ben had designed is coming up here. I'm a fairly powerful endurance rider and climber, not a great sprinter, but I really enjoy these climbs coming up. This is where you get into those kind of 10, 11 kind of percent gradients. We've got Frank here with the wind at your back, giving him that nice push up the hill here, which is really paying off. But Vibika has timed that perfectly for her use also of the wind at your back to give an attack to catch up. This is where riders want to be really careful, because it suddenly turns into a descent, much like it would in real life. Because of course, once you reach the summit, you're coming back down at that point. So riders want to be really careful not to overgun it on a chase or attack, which we just saw there. Oh, Vibika, so close. Poetry in motion, and that's the commentator's curse. Sorry about that, Vibika. So Carl is putting in some good effort here, but also tempering his effort, as we can see, kind of slowing on his cadence, which we can see reflected in the animation of his avatar. Great work keeping that nice and tempered as he comes around that corner to give an attack here for Frank, who is still just stealing the day here. So we're passing some ghosted avatars. That's when you have lapped somebody or somebody is not in motion. So Ben, the course's designer, is now giving an attack with the wind at your back. Let's see if that can pay off. He's got a, let's look at that, 9-second lead, 8 seconds. So he's making a good attack. He's managing to eat those seconds off, managing to cook them off. And here he is catching up with Carl. I've got a suspicion that Carl is kind of holding back for a certain point in the course. He is, of course, tempering his attacks for the sake of staying upright, for not losing time in that penalty that comes with crashing, which is a 2.5-second penalty, standardized for everybody, because everybody is in the medium difficulty today. Pedro's really asserting himself, as being able to really gun it with some power lately. He's clearly been doing some training behind the scenes and has really been ranking up on that leaderboard, which has been fantastic to see. Pedro's a very dedicated rider, and I love seeing that heart, that determination in a race. And from any rider, even if it's just casual riding. That's a very good use of the wind at your back there. So we have the waterlogged area of the course. Water, of course, is going to add rolling resistance, a huge amount of rolling resistance. So that was a very, very tactile, very clever use of the wind at your back power up by Carl. And that's allowed him to keep that distance relative between him and Frank. Lapping Vanessa here, who is ghosted. You can pass through ghosted riders. That's the whole idea of them being ghosted. Now, something that we don't see on screen here, but something that the riders will, because it's part of their individual HUD, heads-up display, and that is the speedometer. That can allow riders to know when they are going to be in the danger zone. So red is your potential drift and crash zone. Yellow is potential sliding, so you can still kind of save it at that point. Green is you're safe. So that would be why Frank is coasting through the corners here, because he's looking to stay in the green. That's obviously just a very good tactic for in real life, is to coast. What you might see road racers doing here, and as Frank got it, Frank takes it with ease. Oh, Verbika. Oh my God, that was like a meter from the finish line. Oh, that's one of those things where it just gets you right in the gut, because you want to see the riders who are really giving it that gas, really trying hard, get it, and it just happens right at the finish line, literally. So Pedro here coming in for, what that be, 6th position. I think Pedro is maybe holding back for the 4th race here. So this race is a 2 times multiplier, so the points will be doubled, but the last one is going to be a 3 times multiplier. So Frank Garcia there, a whole 2 seconds ahead of Carl Axel. Carl Axel, who I suspect he's kind of giving it a lot of effort, but I suspect he's also holding back for that 4th race as well. Ben as well, normally a lot more on the gas than this. So again, I think everyone's aiming for that 3 times multiplier, because they saw what that did for Verbika's score on Thursday, that would have been. So we've got 1 through 6 there. Do we have a look at the scoreboard right now? So we're just going to get them coming in as they continue to pedal over the finish line. But Frank with 60 points. We've got Carl Axel just 8 points behind. We've got Ben Chilion, 46. Homer 42, and that very unfortunate crash right on the finish line has cost Verbika a little bit. But if her effort on race number 4, Apex Mountains, showed us anything on Thursday, it's that you can kind of claw that back quite comfortably if you're willing to put in that effort. So let's take a dart over to Country Rally, 3.6 kilometers today, which is a 2-lapper for that total distance of 3.6, the mountain bike course. So let's take a look at our riders getting ready, our cadres, if you will, getting prepped for the race. So here we can see, and you can see a reflection of that much higher rolling resistance on those off-road areas that we just saw with the bots there, and with Homer, is the speed is a lot more tempered. I'm not sure if Homer's on a direct drive smart trainer with his trainer set to 100% in game, but if he is, he will certainly be feeling it through the chain. I certainly did when I was on this on Tuesday. It's a fantastic algorithm that CadeSport has. Again, I've spoken on these live streams with Frank about how I think CadeSport has the best draft benefit for a direct drive smart trainer in any virtual cycling platform right now, but also now I think it has the best dynamic terrain for that as well, for the sense of real life riding on a direct drive smart trainer for that chain resistance. So here we go, we've got Ben, he's gunning it right on the front there. Jennifer is just pushing past. So this is where you get the lower rolling resistance on the tarmac here. And here we go, Jennifer is still ahead, Ben giving chase. And here we go, like I was saying, you can see that speed temper with that resistance. Oh, Ben, that's a nasty one. But if I know Ben at all, he's got a lot of power in those quads, a lot of power in those glutes. He's going to show us a lot of chase here, a lot of attack. So we've got our obstacles coming up. This is what can catch a lot of riders out. Interesting choice by Frank here, being on a road bike. That is certainly going to lower that rolling resistance, but it's it's obviously going to be a little bit more difficult on steering and handling. The benefit of a mountain bike on off-road is, of course, the grip, the lower tire pressure as well, meaning that the tire is more directly gripping, because the idea is to have rolling resistance. And as we saw, Frank has just wiped out there with quite a nasty crash in a corner. Oh, nice save by Frank. But this is where a road bike might not be the best. There's a similar course that I ride in the outside world. Oh, Timothy's joined us. So we've got Timothy giving a lot of power on the front. There we go, look at that. Tempering his cornering as well. Being given chase by Carl. The old rivalry still firmly ablaze. Oh, Carl's chosen the tricky corner here, and he's done it. That left side is a lot more tricky than the right, but he handled that with ease. Look at that, Ben giving a good chase. He's made up for that crash penalty, and then some. Oh, Pedro. Oh, Vanessa is also on a road bike, and she took that corner really well, using the wind at your back. Oh! And just powered it up a bit too much for that corner. Now, I certainly know in real life there's a course that I ride here in Saskatoon on the Meewasin Trail. It is like, I don't know what to describe it. It's a very fine gravel, so I can ride a road bike on it. I certainly know that I temper corners on that because I'm on 25mm tires with no grip on them. So going on the straight, I get a lot of speed, a lot of power, but I will drift into a corner if I don't dampen those brakes, which is another reason why I love rim brakes or V brakes rather than disc brakes. So certainly I know what that physics would be like in real life, and it seems very real to the outside world. Riding that road bike on this off-road gravel. Ben has certainly learned something from those corners. He is certainly tempering those corners a lot more and coming into the inside corner, that tighter corner, if you will. I can't remember which one is the apex, but I assume that would be the inside corner because that's the most direct route, the sharpest curve. All right, here we go. So we're coming over to the finish line here. Oh, Timothy! Oh, holy, that was a... All right, so going into lap 3 now, we've kind of set what the top 3 positions are, but who's going to make that big attack and who's going to do it at the correct moment. So it's all about judging where your corners are coming up, judging where your straights for attack are coming. And you can see that the difficulty of that rolling resistance coming through Timothy there. Certainly if Timothy's on a direct drive smart trainer, he's going to feel that resistance even more if he's trying to sprint on this. It's not going to feel nice. Oh, Fabika. Oh, and Pedro. So Carl has claimed that top spot. Ben Ben has just crashed just as I was saying that he's claimed the second position. So it looks like Carl has got 13, 14 seconds at the moment. So that is certainly going to be difficult to catch up on now. Oh. And that's certainly something that can happen. Yeah, both riders are starting to panic now and are starting to push harder on the pedals. And when that happens, you're focusing more on chase and you can forget about your handling. And certainly that can cost you, as we're starting to see here. So 18-second lead by Carl at the moment. Now I think it's going to be up to both Ben and Timothy to maybe try and jostle and jockey for second and third rather than trying to chase here. Because as we can see, Carl is almost taunting. He can just take it nice and easy now. And there we go, just cruising over the finish line. Cruising so much you can almost have a Swedish fika. The one and only thing I know about Swedish culture. All right, there we go. So Ben claiming second, Timothy third, Pedro fourth, Verbika fifth, all right, so let's take a look at the leaderboard as we have our caders, our racers crossing that finish line. So we are just having a little bit of a technical issue here. So while we recover from this, I'm just going to go through the power-up card with you. So the power-up card is going to give you a lot of information. So it tells you the duration, as you can see on here, the cooldown time, which is the time it takes to recharge that, and you're going to have the icon. So that icon is a way to easily distinguish and identify which power-up you're about to use. Configuration, so 1, 2, 3, etc., how many you have, and configuration of where it is for easy access buttons if you are using a small keyboard, for example, on your handlebars rather than a smartphone. And then, of course, the name of the power-up. So each of these power-ups, they can be programmed by a race organizer, even ride organizers, if you're looking for to add an element of fun to casual rides, to workout rides, group workouts, any kind of team training rides, anything like that. It's going to be a great way to do it. So while we are just getting this new race set up, I'm just going to go through the co-op. So this is something that I use. If you've seen me on my webcam in the races, you've seen me maybe turning my handlebars, for example. So this works on the gyroscope of the phone that you're using. And the great thing about this is it is not data heavy as a dedicated app would be. So when you log into CadeSport, you scan the QR code with the camera on your phone, and it opens a web browser version of this. It's only mobile configured, I guess would be the word. I'm trying to think of the correct terminology for this, but it's only mobile friendly, which means it's a light website. So it is not data taxing your phone. As you can see, you have prompt buttons on there where you can steer with the prompt buttons, or you can use the gyroscope of your phone by attaching it with a smartphone mount to your handlebars. This will allow you to steer as well as having that brake button. The brake button is going to be a tempered brake button where it brakes by a percentile the longer you hold it. So this will simulate dampening your brakes in the real world. Dampening can of course be good for preparing for a corner, preparing for slowing yourself on descents, that kind of thing. And that can be reflexive in game with that. It's fantastic. I like it. I really enjoy it. And it's something that I would recommend. You can also go in through the Browse Unconnected option when you first open the web page, and you can do some of the stuff you would do from the root menu of the actual CadeSport game itself, which is to check out playlists, confirm start times, schedule yourself to one of the races or playlists, check your stats and fitness and achievements, and you can also kind of add friends and socialize as well, and you can also watch the how-to videos. And now we're going to go on to an explainer of Pro Power Mode. which is what the riders are using today. So it's a very clever algorithm that has been designed by Frank Garcia, but it's been actioned by somebody who is clearly very good at mathematics and at physical sciences, whatever they would be called, like sport sciences, for actioning them into the game. So the idea is whether you're on rollers like Peter or a direct drive smart trainer, it will standardize your power to that of a pro racer out in the real world. And so what that really means is that it finds what your threshold is, and the threshold is set for everybody at 421. What you do above that depends on how hard you want to push it. But in other words, your sweet spot where you're about 20% below threshold, that's going to be pretty much standard for everybody. So you can have social rides regardless of power categories in other virtual cycling platforms or your power out in the real world. So that makes it a much more inclusive environment. It makes races a lot more fair at threshold level. So if you really want to win, when we see riders going way above that 421 watts, they've really figured out that they really have to go above their 100% threshold to kind of gain that win. So we are now jumping ahead to Apex Mountains. We have had a technical issue with Echelon, but we have recovered, and we're about to go straight into that all power, all road race. So here we can see Carl warming up, and he's keeping it nice and tempered, just massaging those legs. So as I suspected, he is going to be going all guns on this race. He has been holding himself in the breach, if you will, ready to fire from the start line there. So we've got 20 seconds. We're just kind of seeing these warm-ups here. We can see Carl Axel and Timothy on these web cameras. I don't know how I forgot that word. So here we go on the start line. There we go. So Jennifer is really powered off there. Wow, 1600, 1500 with a watt level that if it wasn't for the Pro Power mode, that would be something that would make the eyes of even anybody in any of the tours water. Like Geraint Thomas would be jealous of that one for sure. So here we go, maintaining 5 to 600, that's definitely above threshold. As we discussed just seconds ago, threshold is going to be standardized at 421 regardless of what each rider's individual wattage threshold is. So that's part of that standardization that helps keep riders together. So Jennifer's keeping a good powered effort here, but we can see a small peloton, arguably an echelon, forming here. So the wind dynamic is active. So that means if we had a real strong crash dynamic here where we really need to use steering, which we don't because this is a power course, not a technical course, then that would mean that riders can be pushed with a crosswind potentially into corners. So corners have to be treated even more carefully. But it also means that they can get a side draft benefit. So on their side flanks, they can kind of get a draft benefit as well as just directly behind a rider. So Frank, interestingly, is keeping aside from the peloton here. I think maybe looking to make a bit of a powered effort here, a bit of a sprint at some point. Or he might just be holding draft benefit as a good tactic. For Beaker, keeping the draft benefit here as well, the draft benefit really came into play for her win on Thursday. Very artful, very skillful use of that draft benefit and very skillful and artful timing of when to do an attack. It was textbook, it was perfect. So we can see that we've got the team working together as well, Ben and Verbika. Timothy is maybe tempering himself here. Kind of holding back a bit, also maybe using that draft benefit tactic and waiting for the right moment. Jennifer has a 14-second lead at the moment. Jennifer might be a somewhat younger rider to Cade Sport, so maybe the system is yet to quantify her numbers, quantify what her threshold is, and get that baseline for her 41 watts. So maybe that will be something that happens when the servers refresh at that 23:59 tonight. But we'll see. So Pedro here leading the chase pack. Pedro is somebody who he's clearly trained up, as I've said. He's moved up that leaderboard with his training, and he shows a lot of ability to hold power, a lot of endurance, if you will. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does here. Somebody at some point is going to break this pack and try and chase Jennifer. Maybe they're waiting though. Maybe they're tempering out Jennifer. Wait and see if she can just cook herself a little bit. Both are clever tactics, but both have risks attached to them. Certainly making an attack right now, you're going to have to go out solo. Or you're going to have to make a decision as a whole peloton to have the front guy put in a lot of power and the rest of you just rest and maybe switch and swap as you go. It's certainly very, very smooth team effort there with Ben and Vibika, very used to each other's cadence. We can see a slightly different cadence in Timothy in the animation of his avatar there. And very similar sync in both Ben and Vibika. Very good rhythm. So yeah, there we go. They're waiting out Jennifer and she's starting to lose some time. We saw that go from 14-second lead to 12. Oh. There we go. Nice tempered effort from everyone. As we're going through the town centre here, city centre. Very reminiscent of towns certainly in the foothills of the mountains in Alberta, here in Canada, but I'm sure reminiscent of Colorado towns on the other side of the Rocky Mountains too. So Jennifer here holding close to 400. So Ben is now the lead on this pack. Keeping a fairly tempered wattage for Ben, which means that I'm sure he's going to do a big attack once they've eaten up that time from Jennifer, which continues to decrease. That's the trouble with making a big attack right off the front. Getting right there, you don't have any draft benefit. You're pushing against your own chain tension, your own resistance, and what you're capable of holding in terms of endurance as well. So certainly very impressive, but we're starting to see that power. It's kind of peaking and dropping, and maybe in real life, perhaps Jennifer's cadence is starting to suffer as well, not entirely rhythmic. That's the trouble as well with holding that endurance, is you kind of have to find a place to hold it. Frank now in charge of the chase pack. Interestingly though, choosing a different lane, maybe coming back in for, I was wondering if he was going to do an attack or coming back in for draft. That's a good tactic when you're feeling a little bit beaten in the quads maybe. That's certainly a good way to temper yourself but still be in the pack. So this is awesome. We're seeing some good switching and swapping with Team Hive. When somebody is tired, and I'm sure in the game chat, in the team chat, or in the global chat, that they are maybe communicating with each other, hey, I'm a little bit tired, can you swap out with me? And they're just tempering that effort, so either one of them could be ready to do the attack when that comes up. Really, really good tactic. This race is really interesting to see, because I'm really interested to see when they're gonna come away from the tempering of these tactics and just go full power, and who it's gonna be, who's gonna lead the charge back against Jennifer. So they've managed to eat that up to 6-second lead only. I think Jennifer's maybe feeling it now. She's not quite hitting that peak of 400. So there we go. Yeah, at 198. So that's still the equalized heart rate, but still very high. I think it maximizes, if I remember rightly, for Pro Power at 200. So she's certainly at peak or above. So she's in her metaphorical zone 5, zone 6. And certainly at the point where that is beginning to go above your VO2 max and probably shallow breaths. And we can see, in contrast to that, Verbika and Timothy being in that team where they're taking turns, putting the effort in on the front of that chase pack to switch out the draft benefit, that the heart rates are about 30 to 40 beats per minute lower. So Carl Axel coming to the front now. So Carl looks like he's about to make an attack. Is it too early? Is it the right time? Or is he just trying to break up that peloton? Certainly if I was in that peloton, I wouldn't take that goad. I wouldn't go for it. I would keep to the benefit now, the draft benefit. Here we go. So that's come right the way down to a 1 second lead. And certainly she's probably seeing the long shadow of Carl Axel's front wheel creep up on her now. But this poses a kind of unique opportunity to Jennifer where she can maybe steal some draft benefit and maybe recuperate some of that heart rate, maybe kind of make the breaths a little bit deeper, a little bit more close to your VO2 max here. So here we go. Ben is kind of hugging that rear wheel of Carl. Maybe that's a good tactic, getting that draft benefit from a rider who's making an attack. But it certainly means you have to kind of keep pace. If Ben's on a direct drive smart trainer, but with the trainer set to 100% in game, then you do feel that, as I discussed before, you feel that go off of your chain when you're in the draft benefit, the tension go off, which you don't feel in real life, but feels very comparative to how the tension in your legs disappears because you're not pushing against air resistance. So very realistic to real life, even though it's not directly one-for-one the same thing. If that makes any sense at all, then congratulations, I guess. So here we go, Timothy on the front again, making a big attack. Timothy's very good at doing a sprint and being able to hold that as endurance. We can certainly see on his webcam that he kind of cooks with that, but he seems to be able to just do that. He's got some superhuman VO2 max ability, I guess. And yeah, he's holding that. Look at that. He must be in his drops because he's kind of rocking a bit. And he's got his headphones on, so he probably is rocking, you know, horns up. So, yeah, here we go. We're going through that slight gentle climb, which is a little bit deceptive. If you're on that smart direct drive smart trainer, you're in a high tension gear, which you probably want to be in a race like this. It feels more aggressive than a 1 to 5% gradient. That's just kind of how it is in a high tension gear. So certainly that effort's going to pay off. Verbika here getting the draft benefit from Frank. So Timothy right on the front, really opening up a gap here. So 5 second, that went from being with the pack, so 0 second right the way up to 5. And here we go. That's plateauing that climb, coming back downhill. So riders can maybe ease up a little bit until they kind of reach the flat again. A good chance to get a little bit of calming on that heart rate, and also use the advantage of the momentum that a downhill provides. Again, very similar physics to the outside world in this. And keeping a very tempered peloton again. So Jennifer here keeping around about that 300 to 400 watt range. Vibeke pulling up on the peloton, keeping with her teammate here, Ben. And Frank is caught up too. I've got a feeling that Frank is going to be waiting for an attack as well. I've got a feeling that we're going to see a multi-pronged attack on that finish line. But Timothy, as you can see at the moment, does have around about a 11 to 12 second lead on the front rider of that peloton. Nice and tempered. Frank, it looks like he's breaking away. Nope. I'm wondering if that's maybe to do with the autopilot in game. So Vibeke coming to the front of the pack, making an early attack. This is on the climb. Vibeke obviously being a powerful climber, as I've discussed before. Let's see what this does to the dynamic. So there we can see Vibeke maybe out the saddle, I'm not entirely sure, but certainly putting some power through the quads to really kind of get up that climb. So Vibeke being the winner of this particular race, Apex Mountains, on Thursday, and that was an absolute photo finish, textbook finish, as I discussed talking about Thursday. So you should go and watch that either on the Facebook page for Cade Sport or on the Cade Sport YouTube page under the live tab. If you can, I would recommend it. It's a fantastic race. Real nail biter, edge of your seat action. So Carl once again in the lead. I think Vibeke is maybe tempering now that it's evened out on the climb, waiting for the right moment. Frank is getting in nice and close to maximize that draft benefit. All right, so here we go. We're getting into those final 3.5-ish kilometers. Jennifer now in the pack. As I said in the commentary there, she's probably looking to kind of soothe that heart rate, get it down, get it ready for an attack. So Vibeke here, interestingly making an attack on a flat here. So maybe looking to make an early push to kind of break up a peloton, to break up any chances of attack. So this peloton has eaten up some of Timothy's lead there, bringing it down from about 13 at its peak down to about 9. So let's see what can happen in those final 3 kilometers. It's not outside of the realm of possibility that they might be able to really catch up to Timothy and give him a run for his money. A run for his euros, because he's in Belgium. So Jennifer has kind of broken away again. Let's see what she can do with this. A very short gap against the peloton, but Timothy here tempering his effort for a potential attack, I would assume. So let's see what happens here. This is going to be very interesting. I mean, now looks like we're getting a very powerful attack from Jennifer. She must be rested now. She must be out of the saddle in the drops in real life, or just geared up to a higher tension gear. Here we go, eating that lead from Timothy, getting that right the way down to 2 seconds. But I'm pretty sure Timothy's tempering here. I might be wrong, but I think we're getting a tempered effort where he's waiting out. There we go. We just saw on his web camera there, as we saw hover above his name, that he just looked like he got out of the saddle for a second, just to get that extra kind of push against the chain tension. There we go, keeping even pace here. So 2 kilometers to go. It looks like it could be anyone's race right now, but let's see what that means as we get closer to the finish line. Ben Chillian keeping even keel with Carl Axel. Verbika bringing up a very powerful chase. The trick here is going to be not to overcook right before the moment of a big powerful attack. So let's see what they can do. They're jostling here. It looks like they were doing a bit of lane selection jostling to try and deny each other the draft benefit, which will be somewhat hard with the wind dynamic being active here. So Carl Axel, as we can see on his webcam here, doing an absolutely fantastic powered race, but we can see he's kind of in the hurt locker, as Frank would say. He's entered the pain well, and he has he's collected the water of pain, if you will. So here we go, Ben keeping an even keel attack with Carl. They're both trying to pace it perfectly to see who can outstrip one another. And Verbika, live from Denmark. So here we go, doing a nice powerful attack. So Verbika's going to come into her own here with the hill climb. Let's see if she can make some effort from that. Timothy and Jennifer, they're keeping a fairly even pace. I feel like Jennifer might have an outside advantage here because she's relying on Timothy's power for the draft. So let's see what can happen here. This really is anybody's game. That pack is starting to reform again right behind those 2 lead riders. Here we go. Now they're doing the big attack. So we've got just under half a kilometer to go. Oh, big 900, 800 from Carl Axel. Jennifer's seeing that number and is trying to counter. Let's see what can happen. Oh, this is even. A very even kill. And Ben is closing that. This could really be anybody's thing now. Oh, another photo finish by Carl. That was neck and neck. Well done to Jennifer for being able to hold off a rider as powerful as Carl. Carl is, of course, a very impressive rider, as is Ben and Timothy. In fact, all riders here today. And you can see the green screen there behind Carl Axel. If you do join the Cade Sport users group, you'll get to see his videos that he uploads where he chroma keys out that green screen and shows him riding in real life on his presumably direct drive smart trainer against the in-game footage and what that looks like comparative. So here we go with Frank, just carefully and gently rolling over the finish line, just, I presume, recuperating from today's effort. Well done, Frank. Great effort. We've seen Frank come up in the leaderboard as well, and certainly his efforts here are getting more and more powerful and are really kind of really showing his effort in real life on whatever device he's on. So here we go, Carl Axel with, oh, what is that, like a 2,000th of a second over Jennifer. 2 seconds over Ben Chillian, which a very good attack by Ben, closing that gap that had formed. Very powerful to be able to do that and shows a lot of heart and a lot of determination. Timothy here, 11 seconds behind. So that's interesting. Maybe Timothy's not the most well rested today. And Verbika in 5th, which is a very honourable position. A good kind of like halfway up that leaderboard almost. So Frank a minute behind, and Pedro a minute behind as well. Kay coming in 9th. I think Kay and Homer have been spoken about a lot here, but they do a lot of riding, a lot of endurance riding. And so nobody would blame them at all if they're a little bit tired today and need that recuperation. So that's been a fantastic race today. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for everybody's effort, fantastic effort today. If you do wish to check out Cade Sport, just visit cadesport.com. You can download it for free, try it for free, see if you enjoy it. There is a range of devices you can use. You don't just have to have the more expensive direct drive smart trainers, although it does give you the most real feeling. You can use the cheaper mag or fluid rollers that go on your back wheels. You can even do rollers if you're as confident as Peter. So give it a try, see how you feel, and thank you for joining us today.